Hello, I'm JFS Lewis, and today we want to talk about how to back up your WordPress website. And let's spend a couple of minutes before we get started and think about why we would want to do this. Now, there is one very obvious reason why you want to back up your website, that is to prevent any loss of data. And that's when your web host gives you a call or drops you a line and say, hey, sorry, we had a massive problem with our server, couldn't restore your data, see you later, have a year free hosting on us. That doesn't bring your data back. Now, it's very unlikely that that happens, but it does happen. It has happened to me, and all the web host is going to say is sorry, but that's where the buck stops. There's going to be an agreement in their terms of service that'll say you are responsible for your data. So that's one thing why you want to do that. Another reason may be because you want to migrate to a new host. That could be a different host with the same domain, or that could be a different domain. So you need to have all your data to make that same WordPress website available on a new domain or on the same domain for disaster recovery. You may want to make changes on your local machine, and then you want to, once you're done with that, you want to bring it all back to the live system. So that's another reason why you need to have a backup. You may also, if you're creating websites on a regular basis, use a certain website as a starting point for a new website. So if you have clients and you're developing websites for them on a template system, and you say, well, this one's it took me several weeks to get it to that point, all I want to do is change the header, then you can use a backup as a starting point for another website. And one last point, which is often forgotten, is that you may want to do a backup for archiving and something that's called versioning. So with WordPress being a system that is very fluid and every update that you make is live instantaneously, you can't really say what your website looked like at this time last year. So it's very difficult to say how far you've come, or there's something you may have deleted, but now somebody tells you, hey, can I check out that post? And you go, actually, I've deleted it, but now I want it back. This is how you can have a monthly archive, for example, of your WordPress website. So those are a few reasons. There are probably countless others, but needless to say, this is a system that you need to become comfortable with if you want to sleep well at night. So what do we need to back up WordPress? Well, there's only a couple of technical tools. One is that we need an FTP client that allows us access to your data on the current web host. I'm going to use FileZilla in this demonstration. It's an open source, free utility that you can get for Mac and PC, and it's really nice. I've been using it for years, and it's great. And the other tool that we need is a tool to read out your database. So we need database access. I'm going to be using phpMyAdmin here. That's a web-based utility that allows you to read out the database and turn it into a flat file that you can then save with the rest of your WordPress files. You need three more things. They're less important, nevertheless I thought I'd mention them. You need a bit of uninterrupted time for this, so you need to set aside 15-20 minutes and make sure there's no deliveries or phone calls reaching you. You may also want to place your favorite beverage aside, and one last bit of advice I need to give you is you need to keep calm, because this can be a stressful process if you haven't done it before, but that's what I'm here for. I'm going to talk you through it all. So without further ado, let's get started. So first of all, let's have a look at the website I'm going to be backing up. So this is my wife's website, julia.verslewis.com. She posts various drawings here, and so you can. It's a Woo theme we're using here, the Bueno theme, and all this is going to be backed up. And it looks very different from a standard WordPress installation, so we want to make sure all these things, all the widgets in the sidebar, all the pictures that she's uploaded, and all the content and all the menus and etc., that all needs to be backed up. So this is the patient, and we're going to be dealing with that. First of all, let's back up the file, so the entire WordPress installation. I'm going to head over here to my FTP client, so this is FileZilla, and what you need in order to access your FTP space is your host. You need a username in the host, and you need a password. And once you have these three details that you'll get from your web host, you can connect. And then FileZilla will give you some spurious messages here. and this allows you to explore on the right hand side here the file system. Now your web files, it really depends on who you're hosting with, but your web files will be in one of these folders, so you don't need to copy all of these things. Mine are in HTTP docs. Other folders may include htdocs. It depends on your host. Sometimes you're already at that path. It really depends on your host, and they will help you out. Once you're in the correct directory, you should see all the files that make up WordPress. So all these PHP files, mainly 3 directories here: WPAdmin, WPContent, WPIncludes. And I also see a .htaccess file. It's a hidden file. Nevertheless, it's important that we back this up. So make sure you have this option selected that shows you hidden files. Otherwise, you won't be able to select this and you won't be able to copy it across. And you can find that under Server. So if you go to Server, Force Showing Hidden Files is the option you want to click. Now that we know that these are in fact our files here, on the left-hand side, you see your local file system. So this is everything your computer has to offer. On a PC, this is going to look a little bit different. I'm on a Mac, so I'm going to save this on my desktop. Users, my username, desktop. And on my desktop, I will create a new directory, and I will call this Julia Backup. There we go. I can see it down here. I go in it, and this is an empty folder. So I'm going to select all these files and folders. Don't worry about Plesk stat, that's just something that my server does. Let's just copy it all. Select everything in that folder that holds your WordPress installation. That's important. So you may have WordPress installed in a subdirectory, for example. Make sure you copy all that across, and just hold it, click, and slide it over here. And now FileZilla begins a long journey of transferring the files. This can take some time. I'm going to let it run in the background here. So while FileZilla is doing a good job here, let's have a look at phpMyAdmin. Usually your hosting provider will give you access to this. So I'm using the Plesk panel here, and in Plesk it is under Websites and Domains. And on the right here, databases. This is going to look different for your host, but they will help you out there. I select my database here, we only have one. And I go into Web Admin, so that's what Plesk calls phpMyAdmin. There we go. This is something you should eventually end up at. And you can see all your tables here. So in our case, they're not called WP_, they're called Julia_, because it's Julia's website. But it's 11 tables, which is the standard WordPress installation. You may have more, depending, so certain plugins write their own tables. But this is more or less what you'll end up with. What we want to do here is export all this to a flat file. So how this works is you go to Check All, selecting all the tables, and then you go up to Export on the top here. Very important. Export. Depending on the version of phpMyAdmin that you have, you may see something much more complex. In this version, they've made it a bit easier, so we have Quick and Custom. Quick, you could just click Go and it'll write a backup of your database onto the desktop. Custom, you have several more options. I'm going to choose Custom actually because I don't want this to be saved without compression. So save output file with compression. I'm going to click gzipped, which zipping method doesn't really matter, but as a comparison, an unzipped database could be 200 megabytes, and a zipped database could be only, I don't know, 10 or 20. So there's a massive difference in these things. So compression definitely recommended, especially when it comes to restoring your website, which we're going to discuss in the next video. All the other options you can leave as they are. There's only one thing you need to be aware of if you're using an older version of phpMyAdmin. There is sometimes an option that's called extended inserts, and we do not want that. I don't even have this option here, but if you have it, deselect it. Very important. Hit go, and up comes a file save dialog. I'm gonna save that just here. That's going to go in my downloads directory. And it wasn't actually that big, 133 kilobytes. That is all that was. You may also end up with a file that's just called your database name .sql for uncompressed files, and .sql.gz if you have in fact used the gzip compression. And that's it. So it's not really that difficult to do. Copy all your files via FileZilla, read out the database, put it all in one handy folder and keep it in a safe place. The only thing that you have to do is do something manually, and I suppose many people want to have a solution that does this automatically in the background while they're asleep and keeps their website safe. And of course there are WordPress backup solutions that do that. They're usually plugins that live in your website and they do something automatically. So one of them is WordPress by Automatic. That'll cost you a monthly fee depending on how big your website is, and they back up all your files and your database in the background continuously. And Automatic will also help you restore your website. I think it's an automatic process. I can't really vouch for that. I haven't ever tried this. There are other solutions. One is called Backup Buddy, works pretty much the same way, by iThemes, a different company. There's an Indian company called Inactive.com Media. They make the Blog Vault plugin. Again, same idea. There's a free solution out there which comes from the WordPress repository, and it's called BackWP Up by Daniel Husken. And that does the same thing, read out your database tables, copy all your files across to something like Dropbox, even Google Drive, an FTP space. Lots of other options available. There's also a pro version which you can buy, but there is also a free version available from the WordPress repository. And my personal favorite that I keep using whenever I can't find my access details to the database, that's a very old plugin by Austin Matsko called WPDB Backup. It's available on the WordPress repository, and it will read out your database in the WordPress backend for you. It's under the Tools option. So that's something to look into, but keep in mind that only reads out your database, but not your files. So it even sends you an email with your database attached once every day. So that is also possible. But since this isn't really difficult, I encourage you to not rely on automated solutions. I would really encourage you to go and do this yourself if you feel you need a backup of your website. One more time, let's go through this one more time. You copy all the files via FTP, keep them in a safe place, then you end up with a folder there. Then you read out your database, you end up with a file, .sql.gzip or just .sql, and I say copy that file into the folder that you've created from FileZilla. And that is it. With those files, you can restore your website, and that is exactly what we're going to be doing in the next video. Obviously keep those files in a safe place and do this regularly or if you feel the need. So what are we going to do next time? We're going to take those files and we're going to import your database into a brand new WordPress installation. We're going to copy the files back, and what we're also going to do is we're going to tweak some of those tables so that what used to live on yourdomain.com can now live on your other domain.com. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.